Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Rachel.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome to LeisureBit.
And we're here today because one thing that often gets talked about on these channels is the people behind the channel. And today we have David and Rachel, and I have a lot of questions to ask them. I want to know the best bits, the worst bits, your favourite bits, the saddest bits, and how cold this place gets in the winter.
Looking forward to that, Chris.
So let's get cracking.
Hello and welcome to LeisureBit. And today we have David and Rachel, who I'm sure over the last 12, 18 months, if you've been subscribing to the channel, you'll have seen go on many, many adventures. And even if you're new to the channel, well, we thought this would be a lovely opportunity to find out a little bit more behind the people behind the van, behind the channel. So, I've made a very good point of not telling these guys any of the questions that I plan to ask tonight. And it makes it even more interesting because I know absolutely nothing about vans. These are friends of mine, and I've offered to do this for a small monetary amount of a takeaway. So, what I want to know first of all is, you know, you work, you enjoy your weekends, chance to relax, chance to sit in front of the fire in your nice warm home. What on earth made you both buy a van?
Well, I should probably start that one off because we'd been looking for quite some time. We even went to the NEC, this was pre-lockdown, and what was quite interesting was I think we'd looked at different types of van, but we hadn't really homed in on it. We decided to hire one this was September 2020, so it was before then we decided to hire one, because you know what I'm like, Chris. I knew what I wanted, and I wanted a Swift Contiki Sport 560, which is a coach-built motorhome, quite luxurious. One of the things though was, let's try it before we buy it, and Swift Go, which is the company we hired it from, had an offer on where if you hired from them and you bought one, you got the money back from the holiday. So I thought, fair dues, let's go with that.
I have to bump in for a second because I've known you both for a lot of years now, and was this 95% Dave?
I would say 99%.
Did you even know that you were going to the NEC any more than a week beforehand?
I did know I was going to the NEC, yeah.
Did you know you'd end up buying a van?
No. Did I know David had ordered the van at the point that he'd ordered it? No. Did I know probably 4 months after it was ordered that David had ordered a van?
Right.
Yeah.
So what I take from that is that I knew you had a van before you knew you had a van.
Yeah, probably.
Right, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, the van was introduced to me kind of a little bit under the table, just, Rach, where's that white dinner set we used to have? And I said, oh, it's probably upstairs. And then knowing him, as we do, I said, why? And his head went down and he said, no reason. I said, have you bought a motorhome? No, I haven't. So I sat and thought a bit more. I said, I'm going to ask you again, but I'm going to ask you slightly differently. David, have you bought a campervan?
He'd bought a campervan.
He'd bought a campervan. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. That's very Dave-esque. See, most normal people do that with an extravagant gift like a nice watch or something, and you went out and bought a campervan. As you do, as you do. So during the course of this video, there are going to be questions put to these two. I might even do some kind of quick fire at one point with simple yes and no answers, but we'll see how the evening goes on. David, you've bought a campervan. You're waiting and waiting for the van to arrive.
Yes.
I've watched some of your old videos where you're at the NEC and you're also viewing other vans and you're viewing one similar.
Yeah.
I'd like you both to talk me through the day you first saw the van.
Well, that was pretty much a year ago, give or take a couple of days. Right. The one with this van, we had looked at vans. As I mentioned, we tried the Swift one, and it was just slightly too big. You don't want to be hassled, do you, when you go in places? You want to get about a bit more. Not so much the length, but the width. So that's what homed in on this. And I found somebody that had got one, and I'd always dismissed this particular model because there was a 20, a 40, a 60 at the time. There's now an 80 as well. but I just assumed the 20 was like the base model,
Okay.
rather than that there were different layouts. So I was pretty naive on that one. One of our friends from where we've got the static caravan actually had bought one, and I thought, wow, why didn't I look at those? Because it's a perfect layout. And layout's so important, because one of the challenges, as you probably gather, is I'm pretty tall, but I actually managed to sleep
Really?
across here. Yeah, you have to
That's quite impressive.
But
I feel like we should do a demonstration. And Rachel, obviously for you it was, you didn't know for as long and hadn't had a chance to do as much research as Dave had done for getting the van. So when you first saw it, because I've seen this on your videos a lot.
Yeah.
And I just like to point out, by the way, I find it the most amazing thing in the world that the Dave I know is now the Dave that has a YouTube channel, which is about as far away from the Dave that I've known for a lot of years to the one I see, prattling around on a channel and making people laugh. So obviously you didn't get as much time to prep the van. I was surprised how tall it was, or how high it was. I mean, I'm 6'3", you're probably 6'4", 6'5". I felt quite small next to it.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you first saw it?
I thought it completely was not what I was expecting.
Okay. Why?
It just, as you say, it was bigger, it was taller, there was more in it than I thought. It feels bigger inside than it looks externally. And it was all new to me. So I first saw it when we went to pick it up from the dealers.
Yeah. And talk me through, Dave, how it felt. The actual someone's going to hand you a key.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they show you around on the inside like they do with a car and show you where the indicators are, and I'm sure it's more technical than that on a van. But what was, they're not cheap, right? I'm not daft. These things aren't, they're an investment, and you've got to use them to get the real value out of them. How did you feel on the day?
So the day we went to look at it, because we were fortunate to say about this time last year, it can't believe it's a year, it feels like we've had it much longer. But firstly, going around and having a look at it was fantastic. There was something tangible there, because we'd waited a heck of a long time for it, and in the time I'd spent months, well over a year, researching it. So as you can imagine with me, it's like not reading the instructions. I probably
He's never read the instructions once in his life, has he? No, never once.
And knew as much as the dealer, so I was keen to have a look around. On the day of pickup, actually, on collection, you dropped me off and just drove it home. And they did show us round it, but as I say, I'd spent that many hours doing research on it. It was
and buying things for it. So I don't know if you saw Chris' video of where he put everything outside in the garden, and the shopping had been over that whole. Yeah.
I'm 110% confident that the Dave I know has definitely hidden a number of receipts from you, Rachel. I hate to tell you. There's definitely a significant amount of receipts that you just go da 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 da. Yeah, it's very pretty, very nice. So, I think a lot of people that in 2022, 2023, as we're heading into a new year and celebrating Christmas and thinking about the next year, I know when I'm looking for a new car, when I'm looking to invest in a new phone, when I'm looking to even invest money in a watch, the first thing I do is go onto YouTube and type in exactly what it is. And I can imagine you would have done that. You would have typed in the make and the model of the van, tips and tricks and that kind of thing. So I do feel like a channel like this, whether you're a novice like me, I watch some of the more technical ones when you fit in tow bars and other things. Yeah. I don't have a van, so for me it's not as relevant. I love watching the journeys and the adventures that you go on. Yeah. So what made you decide to want to do almost like a two streams? You've got the adventures as a family with Roxy. Why have we not got Roxy sat on here, by the way? We should have had Roxy.
Roxy's a nightmare when we're filming. She's great normally, but she's a nightmare because
she won't just lay.
She'll come. Yeah. Okay. No, she's quite happy.
Okay, she's happy
at
in
the
house.
moment.
Okay.
But,
okay.
And I tried to put a Christmas jumper on her, and she didn't like it.
Ah, okay.
Not having it.
Okay.
So she's happy enough relaxing after a day, after a walk this afternoon.
Oh, nice. So you've got two streams to the channel. You've got the more gadgets, gizmos. Here's how to install this. Here's some tips and tricks of things that I've learned. I remember sending you a text a few months ago because Rachel was in here with something that takes the creases out of clothes.
Yes.
So even things like that to someone like a novice like me who's not technical with vans, that's relevant to
Quite
people.
useful.
Yeah.
Relevant to people, very relevant. So what was the reason behind the two sets of almost different streams or different vibes to the videos?
So I think the first one was obviously the adventures is something nice to share, and I think the format we've chosen, I tried not to do exactly the same as everyone else was doing, and you probably noticed they're probably less vloggy and more kind of showing what we're doing rather than it be kind of talking to camera all the time. And I tend to voice over them now, although you've seen the styles changed over time.
You must have had some good coaching on that. He must have had some good coaching on how best practice for that.
Yeah, but what, similar to you mentioned, when you're looking for a van, if you're looking to go to a site, what's great to do is just actually pop into Google or YouTube and just have a look at it, because it helps you work out whether that's the right site for you. And I think had an interesting comment saying we've been really lucky and always seem to pick good sites. There is some luck in that, for sure, because sometimes you read reviews and they're not what they are expected to be, but it's the research that goes in to actually make it, should we go there? And sometimes they exceed expectations, meet, or sometimes that's not quite what we expected. But I think we've had a pretty good run this year.
I think it's really important though as well, isn't it? Because we do work and our time off is precious.
Of course.
So we want to make sure that we're not going to go somewhere that we come away thinking, oh God, that was a waste of time.
So as we go through the first few months of owning the van, you've watched a lot of videos, and I'm sure there's some channels that are maybe watching this or that you've subscribed to a long time ago that you may have even become friends with or spotted on a site. Actually, speaking of, has anybody ever recognised you both yet?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Really? I mean, he's tall, so I get it, and you're friendly, so I get it. He's not. You're friendly. But so where?
It still surprises you.
Really?
Yeah, it really does. There's been quite a few, hasn't there?
Yes. So I think the most surprising was we were at Coniston when we went to Pier Cottage, and we'd stopped off. I was just actually nipping across the road to the shop to get a pasty and something for lunch, because we were too early, as you know what I'm like, always too early.
Yes.
So I'd nipped out, and this lovely gentleman stopped me and said, "Are you LeisureBit?" And I said, "Yes." And it was bizarre, because I was completely fazed that it was such a bizarre place to get recognised. And for the life of me, and I'm so sorry if you're watching, I cannot remember the lovely gentleman's name, but it was one of those things that just completely fazed me at the time, because I just wasn't expecting it. Now, you expect it if you go to a rally or a meet or something like that, because you kind of, everyone's together. It's like going into work to a degree, isn't it, where people would know you. But I was just so surprised there.
There's been quite a few though, hasn't there, when we were at Morvick?
Yes.
There was the people in the caravan next to us, they recognised us. Definitely at the shows you get recognised quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it's because you've got the world's longest lead for Roxy, that's what I've noticed. She's got a really long lead. Every time I see Roxy, she's on a lead.
And
but
she's
about
me.
3 miles in front of you.
Yeah.
So speaking, you mentioned, I understood LeisureBit, but only after you'd explained it to me.
Yes.
So what's the reason behind choosing LeisureBit as a name?
So this goes kind of back to about July 21, isn't it, last year, before I got the van. I was expecting the van to come in the September, and as you mentioned earlier, it's probably the least likely thing you would ever expect me to do.
Yes.
What did you say to me?
I couldn't believe it when he said he was going to do YouTube. I was like, really?
Well, Rachel, I'll let you into a secret. Dave and I work together. So I distinctly remember Dave having to do some presentation in the public domain.
Yeah.
And being like this, absolutely, couldn't think of anything worse that he'd rather do.
Yeah.
Would much rather be the brains behind it and, let somebody else do that, probably someone like me, let someone like me do the talking. And do you know what? He spent so much time on it and stressed about it so much, but did a really good job.
Yeah.
But because he put so much work into it. Whereas what I've found from watching you, I came to this quite late. I think we got for dinner and you said, "Oh, I've set up a channel," and I started watching them all then.
After you'd stopped laughing.
Yeah, it's just I could never imagine you doing it. Right? This is Dave. And you know, and I sent a text to Dave saying I heard when I watched your interview with that lovely lady that on this side,
Nick Osborne, yeah.
I was like, do you know, she's actually a really natural presenter. I think she does it better than you, to be honest. But yeah, it's completely outside of your comfort zone. But I say good on you. Yeah. So LeisureBit, I'm guessing the leisure makes sense.
Yes. So it took a lot of thinking through and came up with a short list of options, and Jessica helped with that as well. And it was one of those that leisure was the context, and I didn't really know where I was going with the channel. It's kind of, if you go back to then, I don't think I would have expected to be where I've kind of got to with it now. So leisure was the leisure space, and bit is a play on computer terminology of bit, but also it's a play on a bit of leisure. Right. If that makes sense. So,
right. Okay.
Only I could have figured that one out. But what's quite interesting is people do seem to remember it once it's kind of stuck there. But I have had some concerns it looks too commercial. So you've probably seen in some of the videos that we're going to be rebranding next year a little bit, just to make it a bit more fun and friendly.
You've seen my question I was going to ask you in about 10 minutes then. That's good. So that was what's coming next year. We'll do that a little bit later on. How many megabytes in a gigabyte?
How many megabytes? 1024.
Thanks, just checking.
And there's 8 bits in a byte.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't think it takes a genius to kind of, you know, from some of the videos to obviously understand that you've got a passion for technology. Yeah. And I think that really shows in some of the more technical videos. What I would say is that I feel like you don't alienate people, which I think is quite a skill, because IT people are very good at going, and it makes no sense to mere mortals like me and Rachel. But do you consciously do that?
So I try and explain it, and I'm really conscious. You probably saw I put a poll out recently, because coming up next year, again thinking into the future, some of the tech we've looked at this year is like kind of baby stuff compared to where I'd like to go. And I sometimes think the audience that are watching for the adventures, they're watching for simple tech and mods, you know, things that you can watch and do. And then we go into we'll call it extreme tech, but it's not really extreme tech, but it tends to be electronic stuff. And I was wondering whether to split that one out. I always had a mantra that said people will watch what they want. You know, if a video pops up and says as long as you're clear about it, it doesn't say Brompton on Swalen, it's actually
lithium setup,
something like that. So I think as long as you're clear on it, but I did wonder, and one thing I'm just considering, just based on the feedback, was do I actually do a simpler version of the what you use it for and things like that on LeisureBit, and then have a link off to another channel if you want to build it or something like that.
That's a really good shout.
But it's a difficult one to balance, because some things, as you see, and some things coming up are just general improvements to the van. And when I got the van, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I was going for a Swift Contiki Sport, and there was some things I liked in that I want in here. But then the question is, I don't think there's a perfect van out there for anyone, and it's about finding one that's close to it and then doing what you want to it. So I bought this with a view that lovely van, but there are some things I want to do to it, and some of them we've seen on the videos, some of them we've got coming up.
So Rachel, you obviously you don't do the kind of things that have been added onto the van since the initial purchase. Still think the crease video was the best one of all of them, to be honest.
Did very well.
I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. I honestly cannot find it anywhere. And I think I texted you, didn't I? And you've caused a rush on whatever this
release,
crease release. Yeah, can I heck us find it?
You never know what Secret Santa might buy you, Chris.
Oh. So from your side, what's been the best upgrade that Dave's done for you both in the van?
Can I say 2?
Yeah.
So my first one.
It's your channel. It's not my choice. You do what you want.
My first one, and this is very, very bizarre, would be the lithium.
Okay.
Why? Because I can straighten my hair when I'm out and about. I've never once had to think about whether I want the TV on, whether I want to dry my hair, whether I want to put the kettle on. it's just there.
Okay.
And my second one is a completely opposite end of the scale. Is this little table?
Oh, this isn't standard.
No, this was a chopping board.
It fits on over the sink, which has been replaced by a very famous one from the CV group, a FOMO, as they call it.
Right.
So we use that one as a little table, but it's actually a sink.
Genius.
Perfect.
It's genius. Just put your drinks on.
Exactly.
When you sat on a night, it's
Yeah.
just big enough for
Yeah.
2 drinks.
Drinks or an elbow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or an elbow.
Yes.
So they're
So
my
they
two.
two.
Yeah.
Right, cover your ears, Dave. What's the worst one? What's a waste of time that he spent his money on?
Oh.
Because for me, the why you need a cover for the microwave for the dish thing to go into the glass dish. If I don't want my glass dish to bang against the side, I get a tea towel that I've already got in the van and I wrap it in a tea towel.
Well, let me tell you about that one. So I did have a tea towel,
Right?
but it was a right pain.
Why?
Because you had
Why?
to wrap
You had 2 tea towels.
You had to snuggle it in, wrap it right, and somebody showed me. George showed me one when we were at Durham, and I thought, what a cracking idea! Just pop it in the pocket, shove it in, and then problem gone. I tell you what, though. You want something on there because it makes a right racket if you're driving along and you haven't got it because the glass bangs around against the microwave.
I think for me, the proof is going to be in the pudding next year. So 2023, will the paddleboard get out?
Yes.
Will the bikes get used?
Yep.
You know, this is quite a bit of kit that you've got that you're going to be taking about with you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him back in the water.
I was genuinely, absolutely gutted you didn't drown.
So was everyone.
I was
So
watching it going, Howie Dave,
Come on,
son,
Ollie.
you're definitely going to fall in. And he's there with his camera and it's slipping around and he's...
I'm actually really looking forward to have a go. Unfortunately, as you'll have seen on that one, it was blowing a gale and even the pros were tucking away in the corner. And I wanted to give it another go, but we just didn't catch the weather. We brought the rain everywhere we went since.
Yeah.
And we ran out of year, didn't we?
So far we've looked at what got you into choosing to buy a van, and we've talked about gadgets and gizmos inside the van and the stuff that, you know, is worth the investment. Question for you though, Dave, of all the things that you've chosen to do together and you've done to the van, is there anything you would now not do to the van?
I don't think there's anything I'd not do so far. There's some things I've procrastinated on whether to do them or whether not, and I'll tell you the reason for why. When you start cutting holes and things like that in it, once you've made the hole,
Of course.
at some point in the future you might want to sell it on, and not everybody wants the same things, whereas most of the modifications that are done, if you look at this, you'll spot a few things, but a lot of them are just kind of ex-factory because it's all underneath, it's fitted in, or it's useful things like reversing sensors, tow bars, things like that people don't mind. But getting into serious mods where you start cutting holes and things, I think you've got to think through, and I think it's probably overthinking at times.
Is there anything that you bought that
Yes.
you haven't used?
Yes. The biggest waste
You
of
did that on
money,
purpose, didn't
yeah.
you? That was definitely on purpose. How Dave?
The biggest waste of money I bought was the 3.5G, because I think I've used it once to try it, so
Right.
total waste of money because I've just been using, I've got a EE sim in the little router up in the cupboard
Right.
there, and that's been absolutely spot on. And now I've said that, no doubt I'll end up having to use it, but that's probably been the biggest waste of money. And the reason I got it, I wanted a 5G capability, but there's never been any decent coverage on 3, and EE's just worked, so that's why I kind of stuck with that. So that's probably been my biggest waste of money.
And I'm trying my hardest here not to stereotype by asking you technical van related questions and asking Rachel something that's got nothing to do with the technical side of the van. With a space like this, how difficult is it to personalise it? Like how do you make it yours?
I don't think we've
Yes.
really started yet. What we wanted to do was get used to the van, and for David to do the bits and bobs that he was going to do, and then start personalising it. We really wanted to put curtains in and things,
Okay.
but we didn't want to rush into doing it so we don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
So it's one that we've put off probably until next year now, isn't it?
I think the other bit as well is, and I know where the time's gone because we've been away in it, and rather
Yeah.
than being parked up doing mods all the time, we've been away. So there was loads of stuff. If you'd have asked me a year ago, and I've probably mentioned on some of the videos then of what I wanted to do, not done half of it. So we've just not had the time to do it all. But it's a really good point on, you know, how do you personalise it? And sometimes we have different tastes in that, don't we? Yeah, I've got my little my little antler from Isle of Arran.
Very nice.
Up there.
Very nice.
And there's the Coniston Bluebird Bitter beer mat up there.
Maybe that's what you could do. You could just start a wall of beer mats around the top, you know, of all
Yeah,
the
no, of
different.
course.
No, I didn't think so.
And there's cuddly toys.
I spotted one up here.
Yeah, which are just not my bag.
Right. Is that yours? Is that yours,
Yeah,
Jim?
yeah,
Yeah,
Is that yours?
yeah.
Oh,
Just not my bag
just
at all.
softens it a bit.
Right. Yeah, I think you need a plant. A house plant of some
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah.
You know, like a mother-in-law's tongue, one of those ones that had a bit of volume to it.
Yeah.
Christmas tree.
I mean, in March it might be a bit daft, if I'm honest. If you're going to be using it in March, although it does look very festive in here. I feel very. It's probably the most Christmassy. I haven't even put my decorations up yet. And if you're watching this in June, by the way, this makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, so we're here, just having a chat about you've had the van give or take a year now. You've had the channel for longer than that.
Yes.
I understand when you try and create a social media account, it is sometimes difficult to get traction. What are your plans moving forward in terms of growing the base and reaching out to more people? Because I think this the adventures are great.
And I think coming up, obviously adventures I think will be a constant and we continue. A few tips we're putting, say, can you put the price on? So we're gonna do that in the videos and say I think I was probably quite rigid in terms of we had receipts and things at first from it, but it all went out the window. Not literally, otherwise we'd have got done for littering. But
I'm rubbish at that stuff.
So
Yeah,
I'd
nice.
like to try and properly account from it. We have got a video coming up where we're going to talk about the costs, but they're kind of rounded up rather than specific costs, because I think it's interesting to know for people considering getting a van, how much do things cost and how much do you spend on insurance, diesel, how many miles to the gallon and that sort of thing, because it's all very handy to know. And I think you only really know that not by the gauge on the van which says you do 32 or whatever. It's kind of measuring how much money you're putting in and keeping the receipts and truing it all up.
And for me, it's about more adventures. So where do we want to go next year? What do we want to see? What's going to be our focus? And we've got some ideas, haven't we? But we
Yes.
haven't firmed anything up yet.
I think there's, at the moment, you work full time, you've got jobs during the week, you really can only travel on a weekend, maybe a bank holiday, so you can go a little bit further. So I feel like that probably restricts you a little bit. You could set off on a Friday night, but then you're travelling late, you're arriving to the site late.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to do that, per se. But, are there plans to go abroad?
We'd like to at some point. However, I think in this coming year, it's always an interesting trade-off, because if you go abroad, you use up all your annual leave from work, your holidays, in one chunk, and then it's fantastic, that period, but it stretches out. But we'd love to go abroad in the van. Whether we'll do it in 2023, I'm not sure yet. But we've got so many places to explore. If you look on the map on the website, it looks like didn't like the south, and we'd love to go places like the Peak District, Wales. We loved when
Devon
we
and
went
Cornwall,
before,
places like that,
exactly.
are beautiful. Yeah.
So I think that there's an awful lot to explore as well as that, but we would at some point really like to go abroad in the van. Yes.
I'd love one of them big long tours where you set off and you just
It would be amazing.
go where you
that's
end
the life,
up.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I'd love to do that.
Open the doors to a different location almost every
Yeah.
other day,
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah.
So we need to either win the lottery or
I mean, in the kind of when COVID hit and we all ended up, a lot of us, ended up working from home and that kind of thing. There's enough space to put a laptop down here. I mean, you could just, just be working from home for a couple of weeks from Bulgaria, But
I think a lot of people do as well, though. A lot of people work from the vans.
yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm sure David's 5G thing would allow us the connectivity to do that.
Yes.
Might get a return on investment on that.
You
one.
might, yeah.
Shut it on the roof and away you
What's
go.
the data roaming charges these days for other countries? But I think, you know, when I think about the cost of living, which is, you know, there are, let's call a spade, you know, prices are expensive at the moment, and you know, energy bills are huge. My question is, I just don't know why you don't just come and live in the van. The cheapest chips.
Yeah.
This must be much cheaper to run than you know, any size house, surely.
Well, if you think about the size of it, you've got a much smaller space to heat, and to be fair, when you look at what the cost of gas and electric now, and it definitely is cheaper. And there are plenty of people that live full time in the van.
Right.
So I think there's and in this type of van as well, not just the huge kind of Winnebagos or huge motorhomes. I think we managed well on a long holiday, but I'm not sure if we do kind of full time.
You'd strangle him.
Yeah.
Did you see the look on his face? I think it's more me.
So it's interesting that you mentioned Winnebagos and things, because when you first told me you were getting a van before your wife, I automatically had like Breaking Bad. You know, you know, he's going to be cooking. Dave does not cook meth in the van. He's not secretly Heisenberg. That's a Breaking Bad reference for anybody who's watched it. But you know, the roads in the UK are significantly different to the roads in the US, and I'd imagine you'll have people that watch this from not just the UK but other countries as well. And you know, good old Blighty, we have got thin roads. This is a decent sized van. What's it like to what's it like to drive? And have you let Rachel drive it yet?
So you can answer the second part first.
Can I? Yeah. I think it's more of a question, is he probably would let me drive it. Would I want to drive it?
Right, okay.
And the answer is no.
Okay, why?
Why? Because I'd end up strangling him, because he couldn't shut up long enough for me to actually get off the drive without giving me driving hints and tips. So for the sake of our marriage, I don't know. And can I be honest with you as well, Chris, right? When we had the motorhome, it was the same. Is because it's David's baby, it's very different. In the house, I'm going to say this and not look at him, I'm a bit of the boss in the house, but when we're in the motorhome or the campervan, David takes charge.
Interesting. That's a...
So when it comes to cooking, cleaning, so I'm a bit like a princess when we come in here. I just sit down.
Just lounge.
Yeah, I sit
Lounge.
and say, oh, can I have a glass of wine, or will you... And it's brilliant for me to be able to do that. So I take the path of least resistance, and I will not be driving.
Love it.
Yeah. And you asked whether it was easy to drive. It's not bad, to be fair. The turning circle, like on all vans, sometimes you've got to watch, because you can't whip it round like you can Rachel's Fiat 500. But once you get the knack of it, it is quite good to drive. Sometimes when it's very windy as well, obviously you feel it more than you would in a car. But actually, they're not a bad van size. If you look at it, it's probably just over a metre longer than the average car. It seems bigger, it's certainly higher. But if you park a car next to it, so you can often tuck it in car parks as well. You'd only stick out a little bit or just back over slightly.
It's funny, I as somebody of an above average height, it's the one thing I would look for. If I'm buying a car, I've got to be able to fit in it. If I'm buying a pair of clothes, it has to be long length, because you don't want it to show your untoned muscle. I think they call it fat or something, but the untoned muscle, and and those kind of things are relevant to people. And I think that I would always encourage anybody who does a channel is to keep it as real life as possible. You are above average height, and I'm not sure that we can see it in the view. I can't see the screen, but you've got a sun. What's this called?
Roof light.
Roof light of some kind. I had visions in my head of Dave standing up in the van with his head at the top of the out of the top of the roof light. But when I walked in, I was surprised how much space there was head height wise. Yes, for you and I, there's a slight there is a slight dip, but ultimately, if you're cooking, it's you've got the kitchen area here to do things, but ultimately you spend a lot of the time. This is a place for you to sleep and for you to relax, and you don't stand up to relax necessarily, do you? So
I think it's phenomenally different as well, because I originally looked at your kind of Vivaros and your VW transporter types, but it just didn't work for me. It works brilliant for a lot of people, and I know loads of people and a lot of people that watch it works, but I just couldn't make it work for me with my height, because I was bent double everywhere. And as you say, you do have a little bit of you just got to duck down a bit, but you get used to it. But it's still perfectly functional.
It was your deciding factor, though, wasn't it, for this van?
Oh, right.
Was to be able to sleep without having to be crunched up.
Yeah. And then the blooming dog comes and lays on the bed, which
that was the best moment ever. So he'd done all the planning and all the research and realised that he could sleep on this bed. And the first night we were away, Roxy slept at the bottom of his feet. So
and it's really lovely, to be fair, joking aside, but actually you end up then, she does move around, but you do end up, I normally end up having to put my legs down.
So we'll be wrapping up shortly. I'm sure you've got more presents to wrap in time for Christmas. But I did have a few quick fire questions that I've not told you. And I just want you to give me a really honest answer. I'm going to ask you both individually the same question. So whoever I ask first gets less time to prep this. But we're not going to do mathematics and trigonometry here.
we're not doing electrical either.
No, we're not doing electrical. No,
Okay.
no. So the first question, and I'll ask this to Rachel. So far, what's your favourite place to visit?
Chris, I don't want to spoil the surprise. We've got a video coming out on, I think it's December the 27th, isn't
Yes.
it?
Okay.
Looking back at the year, and we're going to talk about our favourite sites in there. So, no comment.
Well, I won't ask you then, Dave. I will go on to say, go on.
What is worth saying though is we've got 3 favourites, but we're going to go through our top ones each and our joint top ones.
So I'm guessing yours are different places. I'm teasing this out of you now. So you've chosen different places.
We've got some common ones we collectively loved, and then we've got some individual ones that were special for us, and we thought it was worth sharing those and giving a little bit of a story to it. So we've got that video out 4 PM on the 27th.
Excellent. Of December 2022.
Yes,
and if you're watching this in March or April 2023, then great.
Already out.
You could just look in the links. It'll be there somewhere. 2023. Your one location that you've not been to yet that you want to visit, David. Just one.
2023. I'd love to go to North Wales because we went there before we got the van, and it's just a beautiful area. We're so fortunate here, of course, being on the doorstep, but it's one place I would love to go back to.
Rachel?
Derbyshire.
Anywhere in particular?
No, just somewhere nice. Peak District.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, 2 more questions left.
Okay.
One more van-related question, and then one topical, given that we're all sat here, dressed in our Christmas jumpers. I was really shocked when I got a text saying, by the way, Chris, put a Christmas jumper on. Put a Christmas jumper on. If you could change one thing about the van, what would you change, Rachel? Quickfire, you see? This is it, quickfire. Told you I hadn't told them.
The shower.
Oh, why?
Because it's not big enough.
Oh, okay. Dave?
It's okay, but
It's not quite what you would want the shower to be.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's one of those though that you've got to compromise somewhere to keep the size down. But interesting one.
And what about you?
I would. It's a really good question.
Yeah, if you could change one thing.
What would I change if you could change one thing? I think I would like an extra 30 centimetres on the back.
Wouldn't we all?
There's so many things I could say now, and I just turn the camera off a minute. I've got at least 3 comebacks to that.
You can't say that, David.
Brilliant.
How
Right.
much 30 centimetres?
I'm keeping control of this interview. Final question. Given it is a Christmas. She's gone now. David, given that it's the Christmas theme, what are your plans for the big day?
So this year we're treating ourselves as our Christmas and birthday present to each other, and we are going away to a hotel in Northumberland for Christmas to meet up with Rachel's dad and Sheila.
Oh, lovely. That sounds fantastic. So no huge pots and pans to be cleaned and tidied and washing up and dishwasher filling and
we've never done that
No,
before. We've never been away
Yeah,
in a hotel for Christmas.
Yeah.
We would go somewhere in the van,
yeah.
but
a lot of places.
we didn't know we were
Yeah.
going to get them. We'd already booked up at the point, so...
Yeah.
We thought we'd do, because you never know if you never get round to doing these things again, do you? Not being morbid or anything, but you just never get round to doing it, you know. So we thought we'd do it for a bit of a change. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll probably go somewhere in the van after that.
Okay,
So,
that sounds great. So we hope you've enjoyed watching this tonight, and I've certainly enjoyed understanding more about, you know, the reasons behind the van, some of the stuff that you've been up to, and some of your plans for 2023. And I'm delighted to say I'm now going to take a step aside, and I want to watch it myself. I'd like you to finish your own video for us now.
Thank you for watching,
Hope you've enjoyed it.
and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.